Putting the spotlight on small businesses across America. This is Inside Business with Travis Filing and Gary Tharnish.
You're listening to Inside Business. Travis Filing, Gary Tharnish. We were talking about imposter syndrome, and just during the break, it dawns on me that we were down at the airport a couple weeks ago.
Yep.
And I don't know about you. We're sitting there. They're doing their big runway, repaving event, and there's Senator Deb Fischer is there, and all these members of legislature are there, and all the airport authority and the CEO of the airport, and me and Gary. And I'm sitting there looking around going, we have thoroughly snowed somebody down at the airport.
Some of these things are not
Yes.
like the other.
Yes.
That
It's
would
like,
be us.
There's dignitaries, then there's me and Gary.
And Tom's standing there the whole time like, what am I doing here? Right?
I'm standing there going, what am I doing?
Yeah.
I shouldn't be amongst all these people.
But we did get sandwiches in the shape of an airplane.
They were
that's
good,
kind
too.
of tough to be.
And they were good. And they were really good.
Yeah.
Well, our guest today is old friend Clark Bellin, who is the president of Bellwether Wealth. How you doing this morning, Clark?
I'm doing well. I'm glad you segued into introducing my name after talking about imposter syndrome. I thought that was how you were leading into this with me. Hey, we're talking imposter syndrome, and we have Clark Bellin with Bellwether Wealth here today. I'm thinking, where is he going with this?
Give him your money. You may someday know who he is.
I've known you two for a long time, but I thought, God, Travis, give me a little bit of a break here.
I have some belief in you.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
I didn't even
It was
think
quite
of
a
that.
segue.
Well, can you see my eyes get about the size of a saucer there?
Clark's sitting in the green room while we're doing the first segment of the show, and then now he comes in and
my Lord.
thinks that I'm setting him up for a slam dunk. I'm not.
Well, thank you.
Think
Thank
of
you.
that.
Appreciate the clarity there.
Well, we've all kind of known each other for probably
Long
longer
time.
than any of us care to admit.
Long
But
time.
Yeah, I was probably 17 when I was delivering flowers,
Yeah.
Burton's flowers. and
At work.
gifts.
Yeah. That's jeez.
wow.
Seems like
And I'm
forever
not,
ago.
and I'm not 18.
No, you're
Anymore.
not.
No.
No, you're not, which is good. Which
Yeah.
is good. Yeah.
Mhm.
You were a little smart 18-year-old, I remember for sure.
No way.
No, he was a very good employee. He never knew how to take me, I think, quite, because like, are you serious? Are you not serious?
Yeah, there was a lot of that.
I
Kind
mean,
of
yeah,
looking
kinda
at
right in
you
between.
like, kind of you'd squint your eyes. You look at the other employees saying, do you guys hear what I'm hearing too?
Talk about
And they'd all kind
imposter.
of nod and kind
Yeah.
of give that same
Like-
deer in the headlights look. Like,
Yeah.
Well, I felt at home there.
where they're also thinking, and you gotta leave and go out
Exactly.
driving. We gotta stay here until you
Yeah.
come back.
Yeah.
I love it. I love it.
That's funny. So you have been doing investments you've been on this exactly. Why don't you go ahead and give us a 30,000 foot view and how you got into your industry?
Well, I graduated from college in 1996, and to be honest, it was very similar to times we have right now. I quite frankly couldn't get a job.
Yeah.
And one of the places that I applied at the time, and I was very interested in finance and wealth management. And one of the places at the time, said that that's what they were doing for their clients. And, I went through an interview process and got hired. I didn't know when I got hired, to be honest, that it was really going to be a sales job and I was going to be selling primarily life insurance at the time. But, I didn't know what I didn't know. And it turned out that I was pretty good at cold calling people and was pretty good at establishing relationships and was able to actually sell insurance products right away. So that's kind of how the career got started.
Very good.
I did that for a few years, and then just like a lot of us, the career just changes over time, and I continued to adapt and could continue to get more education and kind of turned into what we have today, which is a wealth management firm based down in the Haymarket. And we have clients all over the United States, and we don't do much insurance products anymore. We in fact, we're a registered investment advisory firm now. So we don't even do anything on a commission basis. We do everything all on fees. But again, it's just been making changes and adjustments over time that we saw there was a need in the marketplace for what we were doing, and we were able to provide it. So
Wow.
there's the 50,000 foot view of what's taking
There you
place.
go. So when you say you're in all this, so pretty all across the United States, all the states probably. Are you going to include like Nicaragua and Cuba when they become states, and Qatar? I think. Where are you at with that?
Well, Gary, I haven't given it that much thought. But now you will give me something to think about until Monday morning.
There you go. Enjoy your
I'll
weekend.
all over that. We'll see where it goes. We do actually have clients that are citizens of other countries,
Nice.
but I know that is not what you were getting at.
It's okay.
But yeah.
So what was your degree in?
I have a Bachelor of Arts degree from Nebraska Wesleyan in Business Administration with emphasis in finance. So
nice.
Yeah.
Good deal.
What was your degree in, Gary?
It was self-taught, and it's called 28th and P Survival.
Okay.
Yes. And I have I'm a PhD in that. So yeah.
Pile high and deep, isn't that what PhD stands for?
There you go. Okay. That would fit me perfectly.
Perfectly. That's what you were referring to. Okay.
Right.
I've never heard. I like that.
Yeah.
Piled high and deep.
Yeah.
That's
his PhD. Now there are legitimate PhDs out there.
Oh my God, I love
I've known Gary for 30 years. I figured that's what his was.
Oh, I'm so glad this will come to a conclusion. Okay, so you opened Bellwether Wealth. That's your deal.
Yeah, I mean, I was very fortunate that at the time I didn't know there were some circumstances that were going to work out for me in the future. But, about 2003, I partnered up with a gentleman out of Omaha that really took my career and accelerated it. He was and still is a very high-end life insurance producer. So he wasn't one of these guys that you went to the kitchen table and he sold life insurance. He sold insurance to people that had permanent needs. They owned buildings, they owned businesses, they had large estate planning. They needed liquidity that was going to be there when they passed away.
Okay.
And he was the guy. And if you went through his client list, I say because I get to work with some of these people over time, but if you went through his client list, they were the who's who of Nebraska. You would recognize a lot of the names. And so that really elevated in my career and it made it explode. But what happened was we set up our business as two separate corporations. I had mine and he had his. And so we both did business as this one entity, but underneath, I was doing my own tax returns. I was hiring my own people. I was doing all my own stuff. So basically in about 2019, when he said, hey, this has been fun, but I'm going to slow down and retire. There's quite an age difference between the two of us. It allowed me just to kind of rebrand my company that I'd already had and turned it into Bellwether Wealth. So it was, but again, when we first set this up, I thought, oh my God, I got all these rules and regulations and things I don't know anything about. And it kind of got, what felt like was fed to the wolves. But again, it turned out to work really well in my favor in 2019.
Yeah. It's sometimes the best way to learn.
Yeah.
Really.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And did you guys like share a lot? Not like share leads, but if you had a client, since you don't do insurance and you have a client who has that need, you're just kind of playing off of each other, helping each other's clients out.
Yeah, we would, end up working with the same clients that, it turned out he had more people because of the years that he'd been in business that needed what I did.
Mm-hmm.
But I had certain clients that needed what he did, but really probably what I helped him do when we would be in joint meetings, if he was trying to present a concept, is I would kind of step back and I would ask him some questions that I thought maybe the client was wondering. And I'd pose the questions in such a way that they were kind of a softball type question to let him kind of knock it out of the park to be able to answer. So, he got to he would have done the deals and closed things all on his own without me being there. So it's not like I was this huge help, but I probably greased the skids a little bit on some of those meetings that he was having just to be a third person kind of in the room. So that worked out well for both of us.
So when he decided he's going to start slowing down and get ready to retire, did you have an opportunity or a want to buy him out and take over that side of the business?
I did. We did have the opportunity, but again, just with what I was doing with the investment side and kind of some of the clients. I mean, once you sell somebody a really big insurance product like that, there's probably not a great chance they're going to need another one.
Mm-hmm.
So I didn't really look at that side of the business and say, boy, that's something I really want to take over. I think there's a need for it. And we still deal with certain clients that have those products and we help service them. But it just wasn't something that I really said, boy, I really want to do that. My passion was more into the investment side of things.
And I would imagine that would be more of a volume business. So is it kind of a different business model?
It's a different business model again, but the the deals that he were doing were huge. So, he didn't have to do a lot of volume. He only had to do a handful a year to do extremely well.
Yeah.
But it just was very, it's different. It's a different business model than what I was wanting to build.
So you guys just kind of split the business back up, which it sounded like it was already kind of split up.
It was already split, and we had certain expenses and things that we shared between the two of us. But, when he just said, hey, I'm sort of, wanting to really slow down. And he had a couple other businesses that he did that were outside of the financial services arena that he, was doing more work with. We just, segued, pivoted, whatever the fancy word is, He and I still have coffee. We're having coffee this next week. I'll be up in Omaha sitting with him. So, we get along great, and it's a great relationship. And man, he was a big instrument in helping me propel my career.
Did he ultimately end up selling his business, or is he just kind of tapering it off?
There is another gentleman with a different firm that's kind of doing some of the insurance work. But again, I'm not real familiar with what they're doing on that side. The joint clients that we had on the investment side, we still retain and work with those.
Well, life insurance seems one and done in a lot of ways.
Yeah.
I could be wrong with that.
Well, I know we have a break coming up, so let's run to that real quick. When we come back, I want to talk a little bit about just kind of get a little deeper into your business. So you're listening to Inside Business, Travis Filing, Gary Tharnish, talking with Clark Bellin, the president of Bellwether Wealth, and we will have more right after this break.
And Gary Tharnish.
We're back on Inside Business. Travis Filing, Gary Tharnish, talking with Clark Bellin, CEO, president of Bellwether Wealth. So when you started in business, you worked for a couple of different firms before you actually hung your shingle out, right?
Correct.
So when did you first start when did you say, that's it, I'm going off on my own?
It was probably around 2000 that, again, there's many ways to approach the financial services business. And, there's pros and cons to each one. And sometimes when you're with a different firm that, you're kind of a salesperson for that other firm, you don't really have any ownership per se. And you're kind of told what you're supposed to sell, and you're kind of told how much of it you're supposed to sell. And sometimes at the end of the day, I felt like, these products are okay for our clients, but it's a big world out there, and there's other things that might actually be better for our clients. So I felt a little bit like I wasn't really representing my clients and presenting them with the best options with some of the other situations. But that was just me. That was just how I felt about it. Mm-hmm. And so then I was able to be introduced to this gentleman in Omaha, and he operated completely independently. And he did whatever was really best for the client. And again, this was in the life insurance arena. And he was honest. And I remember being in meetings with him. This is after we partnered up, where he would tell the clients not to buy certain things that might have been presented, or even stuff he would come to the table with. He would find out the dynamics had changed, and it was refreshing. It was very honest. And so I was fortunate to have been partnered up with him. I was introduced to him by an intermediary, because at the time when I was with these other financial services firms, like I said, their products were good, but there were times that I would use other products to fit our clients. And somebody that represented one of these other companies that I was using at the time knew both of us, and that's how we were introduced. But that's really kind of the thing. It was really just, am I representing this company and selling for them, or am I trying to really help my clients out and do the best thing for them? And for me, I needed to make the transition to be completely able to do whatever it is I needed to do that was in the best interest of my clients.
So what did you take from that experience? Because now you have wealth advisors that work for you, that you've hired. So what did you take from that experience?
Well, so again, Bellwether Wealth, there's a team of 10 of us. So even though there's a couple other individuals that, help talk to clients on a regular basis, we still work as a group. So I don't really have people that are off really kind of doing their own thing. We're all kind of in this together, and we're all strategizing and trying to figure out that we're doing the right thing for the right clients. And again, to us, and this is just my opinion, since we don't do anything on a commission basis, we charge a fee for the amount of money that we manage. it really kind of strips out to us that conflict of interest that you might have. You buy this, don't buy this. We don't, I mean, we care that you buy it if it's going to fit inside the portfolio to drive the return that we're looking for. But if you are anti a certain company that you don't want to invest in, we have clients right now that don't want to have anything to do with certain technology companies for political reasons or certain
alcohol or
yeah,
tobacco.
Exactly. So
Whatever it might be.
we really feel like just being on the same page with the clients and sitting on their side of the table versus trying to represent a company to sell a product is just in the best interest.
Yeah, and that's a great model because I think most people, I don't want to say most people, I know I've talked to several people that feel like financial planners, people that are helping you with their money are in it for their commission and what they're going to get if they sell you this product or whatever.
Yeah.
So that's refreshing to hear because that is, whether it's true or not, that is how most people approach the thought of a financial planner. It's like, well, they're just going to sell me something where they get
whatever makes them the most money.
Yeah. So I love that. It's like you go, this is your money you need managed. This is the fee we're going to charge for it. No commissions involved. We're going to get you the product that works best for you, not us.
Right.
That's great.
And we're kind of in it together.
Right.
Yeah.
If you make the right investments, you win.
Yeah.
I win.
Yeah.
So
sweet.
that was again, for me, that was the bedrock of why I built a career in the company that I've done.
And that's an interesting business model to take, though, where everybody is working together on every client. Is that common?
Yeah, it's more common in shops that are kind of like ours, that where they're going to manage money sort of the same way. Now, some people in my office may have a different conversation with a client about some tax planning strategies that they need to think about by the end of the year. We may kind of talk before they have the meeting about some concepts that need to be discussed because there's certain things that need to happen throughout the year based off of the tax calendar year. But again, it's not like somebody's got their own book of business and they're off doing something that we have no idea what's taking place. Everybody's kind of working together to strategize for the different clients that we have. And we'll find one client that maybe somebody else is talking to has a certain need, but that kind of bubbles up a concept with something else we need to talk to a different client about. So again, I am a big believer of everybody being in the office. I think that there's synergies that happen that you can't recreate by a Teams or a Zoom or any of the virtual things.
Agreed.
Now, with our clients are all over the country. So, we'd use Zoom and Teams and, all of the different ways to actually interact with our clients. But when it comes to the planning or the concepts of what's taking place, just so much happens by just the doors opening up and people just conversing or overhearing what's taking place, and that bubbles up a lot of good ideas. So I'm a big believer in everybody needing to be in the office.
Well, collaboration is great. I mean, I joined a real estate team for that exact reason. In real estate, it's kind of interesting because most teams you have the team leader sets up the team and he's just going to keep 50% of whatever you make, he or she, and they're just giving you leads or whatever. That's the more normal team you saw. So I never wanted to be on one until I was approached by Amy and we kind of went through it. And I said, what's the commission base? And it was so much more collaborative. And so it's been really great for me because, I mean, getting other people's opinion on what it is you're doing always opens your eyes, right? Like none of us know everything. And so that collaboration is great. And we used to have team meetings once a week and they've kind of tapered off a little bit. And you can tell how sucky that is because it's like, we need to be together once a week to really know.
Yeah. I always think, I have the best idea because I created it. And then I'll find out later on when I bounce that idea off of somebody else, I think that's the dumbest idea. If I hadn't said it out loud to somebody else, I would have run headlong into it and done something really stupid. But somebody stopped me.
I remember when I first joined the team, it was like I was at this house and she goes, well, did you assess it? What do you think? And I go, they had to change the carpet. It's like throughout the whole house, probably $3,500. So this guy. She goes, okay, I'll go over there with you. So we walk in and she goes, you're not changing the carpet at all. But you're going to replace that trim and these 12 other little things that were half of what I thought in the house sold over asking. I'm like, okay, well, the same old carpet. It's clean now. It's interesting.
So over the years, 26 years in business, you've seen a lot of financial ups and downs. How do you deal with some of those? Because 2007, 2008 was a fun one for all of us. And how do you deal with those situations? You know, I mean, people call, are they panicking? Are they,
You know, we do field phone calls or again email messages or however people want to communicate with us over concerns. You hope that you've done a good job of educating and cementing a relationship that people trust you and know
Mhm.
that you're doing, is the right thing for them. Again, sometimes what's happened, and it's actually, to be honest, happening right now, are we don't always hit all the high notes with our portfolios because we're anticipating sometimes there can be some low notes that are going to come in.
Yep.
And so you get people that are kind of upset that's saying, hey, my buddy hit this really high note and I didn't hit that high note. Well, the past couple of days, our portfolios didn't hit the low notes like everybody else. So we're not getting those panicky phone calls because we kind of went in and kind of protected things a little bit. So 30 years of doing this, you kind of realize some things that you might want to do for people that's in their best interest, even though they may not recognize it at the time that you're doing it for them.
Right.
So, there's just some, again, education, relationships, and being proactive with the communication that really kind of helps stop the
In the
panicking that
long-term
you're getting.
yeah.
mindset.
And
Well, everybody has a long-term mindset when the market is going up, and that mindset goes completely
Changes.
away when
Right.
everybody can take a risk in their portfolio when the market's on fire.
I'll bet.
And nobody
Yeah.
can take risk when the market is going down. It's like
Right.
So are those risk return profile questionnaires, I think they're completely they don't
That's
help.
interesting.
Yeah.
funny.
Yeah. Oh yeah, I can
That
handle
makes
it.
sense.
The market's up, I can handle a 20% reduction. No, I can't.
Well, I hear the music. We got a break coming up here. So you're listening to Inside Business. Travis Filing, Gary Tharnish. We're talking with Clark Bellin, the president of Bellwether Wealth. And when we come back, it's 5 takeaways time. So stick around.
Filing and Gary Tharnish.
We're back on Inside Business. Travis Filing, Gary Tharnish, talking with Clark Bellin, the president of Bellwether Wealth. And it's 5 takeaways time. This is where we share those 5 pieces of advice to other business owners, listeners, just to something they can either apply to their business on Monday morning, or in this case, just their financial well-being. So what is your first piece of advice that you want to hand off to our listeners?
Well, the first thing we want to talk about is just, it kind of goes without saying, but start investing early, even if it's not a lot of money. Just kind of get in that habit of putting some money away. And again, you don't need to even hire somebody like our firm to do this. You can just put the money in a Vanguard S&P 500 fund just to develop that habit. I work with my own kids on this, just to show them the power of compounding on if they just put a little bit away into some of the accounts that we've set up some accounts for them. But if they just continue to dribble a little bit away and do that for the next 40 years, they'll have put in, I'm showing with my hands, but they put in this X amount here, but it's grown to, 6X by the time they get to, our age, or geez, at least your age, Gary. Travis and I are still young.
I'm seasoned. I'm about ready to marinate.
Okay,
but I'm not old.
Okay, yeah. So starting early, and again, you don't have to get fancy at this point. Just get in. It's really the habit. It's really developing the habit is what you're really working on.
Yeah,
no
that's more important than what you're investing in.
My son did great with this. He started with I believe it was called Go Henry for the kids, and I think Charlie's started. He's 14 now, and it started for him when he was 5, I want to say. And Josh is just like, you know what? I mean, buying all these gifts, right? And they play with the box anyway, or whatever.
Right.
But he goes, let's just, it's up to you. But if you want to do money, so we've been doing that. I mean, we'll still get something, but I mean, we put a chunk of money in there, and he loves it at 14. He's like, I've got this much money in there, and they're required. They can spend basically it's birthday, whatever gift money goes in, right? They can spend 50%, 40% they have to save and invest. Kind of get to work with that now that he's real interested in it, and then 10% they donate wherever they want to some kind of a donation thing.
That's really good.
It's an incredible listening to him now at 14. It's like, it's going to be great because, like you said, it's not only is just it's second nature to him more so than a habit, really. Which I suppose a habit kind of is that way, but I don't see that getting broken for long.
No, that is neat that Josh is doing that. For
yeah,
his kids,
it's really cool.
That'll pay off really well for
Yeah.
your grandkids as time goes on.
Yeah.
So yeah.
And it's time is the greatest lesson that I have to pass on to my kids.
Oh, yeah.
Is, I had investments, and in 2007 left the radio station to start my own business, and 2008 happened, and we all know what happened in 2008. And I was down to a point where, well, it's either cashing in and eat,
Right.
and pay my bills. And unfortunately, the market was half. So
Sure.
automatically my investment was probably 60% of what it was a year prior. And then you pay penalties on top of that. And then you're using it to survive because I started a business.
Yeah.
That's a tough lesson to learn. But when I tell my kids, hey, I still haven't caught up. Just because I've lost all that time. Because by the time I got to a point where I could invest again, it was 5 years later, 6 years later. So I lost 25 years, 30 years. That's a pretty big deal. So yeah.
Yeah.
It is, and it's a good life lesson. But the credit to you, Travis, you don't do a woe is me about it. I mean, we know each other outside of this, and so you are a very happy individual. There's a lot of people out there that make that mistake, and then instead of getting back on that horse and working towards it, they do the woe is me, and then they're never gonna. If you would do the woe is me, you're never gonna recover.
Yeah.
But if you're like, okay, that was a mistake, bad things were happening, and just kind of the things got stacked against me, eat my lumps, let's go forward and do what we got to do now.
Yeah.
That's also a good life lesson to show the kids. So.
And I've never done the math. I've never sat down and done the math that if I would have left it in, now I would have X amount of money, because that's just torture and it's not coming back.
Well, you can have you can have the PhD over here do the math later on, and the number he'll come up with will be wrong, but it will make you probably feel better because it'll be much lower than it. Yeah.
Yes, I can make you feel good about it.
Just have Gary do
I
that
have a
for you.
pen.
Okay, good. Yeah,
I like it.
And he's got 10 fingers and 10 toes, so he'll be good.
That's probably all I would have had left anyway,
Okay.
somewhere between 10 and $20.
Okay.
So I like it.
I'll invoice you Monday.
Yeah.
You do the math while Clark tells us his second piece of advice to hand off.
Yeah, the second thing is don't tie everything to one outcome. Especially if you're talking to business owners. We got a lot of business owner clients that we work with over the years that we started after coaching, saying, yeah, your business is growing. It's growing exponentially, but things can change in your business, and your business is not liquid. There isn't anybody that's going to show up in a white horse and pay you a big bucket of cash immediately. So let's make sure that we're doing some things outside of the business and make sure that that money is liquid, it's accessible, it's growing, it's diversified away. If you're in a very growth or tech oriented business, you might want your investments to not have such a tech lean. So do some diversification and don't tie everything to one outcome, because as you just mentioned in your situation, Travis, things change.
Yeah.
Yeah. And that can, in a heartbeat, it can change.
And a lot of business owners, me included, at one time, I invested 100% of all my investment was the business. Right. And you guys were probably at the same point as well. And that's okay short term. But as the money starts coming in, you have to reinvest in the business. But you also might want to start investing in some other places. Just to prepare.
Well, look at when COVID hit, we lost 74% of our business overnight for the rest of the year. And that was March. Yeah. I mean, it's like, it can be that traumatic. You just never know.
Yeah.
Yeah. That makes great sense. That's a good takeaway.
Yeah, it is. All right, let's move into our third one.
Well, it's I wrote down here a little list. Liquidity matters. Having access to capital, that's very important. And again, with business owners in particular, what I tell our clients that are business owners is don't wait until times are bad to go to your banker and talk about getting a line of credit or getting access to capital. You want to do that stuff when you don't need it. Right. You want to make sure that you're establishing those relationships. Or again, and what we talked about before, if you've been building a portfolio that, don't always build your portfolio in your qualified retirement accounts. Don't always put it in your 401ks and your IRAs and put it in places that it's liquid. Yes, it's taxed. Yes, you're not going to get the tax deferred growth, but you can access it with no penalties, no government restrictions. You can put a sell order on Monday and have it in your bank by Wednesday. If you've built a portfolio, you don't need to go to the banker. You don't need to give a personal balance sheet. You have access to that liquid capital. But again, sometimes business owners need lots of capital. They have payroll to make. If you've established a good relationship with your banker, you understand your balance sheet, you understand your profit and loss statements, and you're able to prove at good times where your business is going, it's better to be able to get that relationship so you have access to capital. When the business turns and you go to your banker, they're going to be like, well, wait a minute here. This is not a great time. Why would I want to?
Yeah,
why would I want to? Yeah, this isn't going well. Why would I want to loan you money?
Yeah, let's see. You're broke,
yeah,
and you want $100,000 line of credit,
right? Yeah, yeah.
You
It's
can't pay your bills.
yeah, it's a very different conversation. It's a
Yes,
fast
it
conversation. The
Yeah.
decision is very quick. If you think you're going to have to wait a few days, you will not. You will know very quickly.
Leave with warm coffee.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, and I learned that lesson when my business was at its best point, because we had a client that was spending truckloads of money with us, but they were taking 60 to 90 days to pay the bill.
Oh,
So
yeah.
we were spending all this money, and we're sitting here looking at our balance sheet going, yeah, high fives all around. And then you go, how are we going to make payroll? Because none of this money is coming in.
You were that client's bank.
Yes, I was.
He was delaying payment to
Offering
you.
an interest-free loan.
Yeah,
We went through that all the time. And then we switched, except for corporate, we switched to, with personal, we weren't billing anybody. But when I first started, it was all by hand, but you'd mail people, but you're making no money when you're having to do that.
Mm-hmm.
You're never really going to pay.
Yeah. Well, let's move on to our fourth piece of advice that we want to hand off.
Plan before you need it. And again, really, when I think about planning, and again, the audience that we're going after here today, business owners, that planning for exit planning is very important. There's only 4 ways you can actually exit business. You can sell it to an outsider. You can sell it to an insider. You can take all the money out of the business and close the doors, or you can die at your desk. Those are the 4 ways that you can exit a business.
Yeah. Unfortunately, I think I'm in the 4th category right now. Really, I have no plan for what's going to happen to my business.
Well, if you're
really,
I am probably 3rd or either 3 or 4. I'm either going to close the doors and walk away, or because I haven't even thought about it.
Well, and that's the point. Again, everybody thinks, well, my business is worth X amount, and somebody's going to show up and they're going to write a check and I'm going to be done. Well, first off, when they show up to write the check, what they do is they say, this is the check I'm going to give you, but I'm only going to give you half because I want you to stick around for 5 years to make sure that this is going to actually work out like we think it's going to. Then about 2 or 3 years into that 5-year period, they come to you. Sometimes it's short and say, this isn't working, and you're done. Or you'll go to them and say, man, this isn't working. I don't want to be an employee of yours. And they say, okay, great, you can leave, but we're not giving you the rest of the earn out that you're supposed to get. So when they say they're going to pay you this up front, there's usually some hang-ups on that particular thing. But, you need to start preparing your business for that exit sooner rather than later. And usually it can take 3 to 5 years. You got to look at what your customers are. You have customer concentration. Do you have older clients that aren't necessarily going to be around for a while? Do you have terms that you can't transfer to another business owner? In other words, you did the deal, you got the legal agreement, but you're personally responsible for that, and that's not transferable to somebody else. There's a myriad of things. If you leave, are your key employees going to stick around? How are you going to make sure that those are being around to do the transfer correctly? It is not something that you just show up on and you decide on Monday, I'm going to sell this thing, and by Friday it's going to be done, or it's the beginning of the year and I'm going to sell it by the end of the year. It's a lot of time. If you want to get the maximum value for your business, you need to do some real serious planning.
Yeah, you've got a great business, Travis. You should do that, because I would think if you've done a succession plan, you kind of know what that's going to look like. If an opportunity presents itself, you're ready, right? Without any kind of a plan, somebody comes in and says, hey, I want to buy Bellwether for this, and you haven't really thought about any kind of succession, then you're behind the curveball already.
Yeah,
behind the 8 ball.
Yeah, I had a friend of mine, actually, he owned an agency, sold it. he was stuck. He was there for 3 years. 2 years in, he's like, I am so miserable because he was in the mindset, and you kind of think this is it. Well, I'm just going to work just like I did yesterday when I owned the place.
Nope.
No.
And not even close.
And if you see changes made that you completely disagree with, is it collaborative? Do you want to be collaborative? I mean,
yeah, he walked out a year early, and he paid a big price for it.
For that,
and for him, he said it was totally worth it. I'll wait until the year's over and see if it's still worth it. But those are things people don't necessarily think of.
Yeah.
Let's hit our last piece of advice.
Your business is not your only retirement plan. And again, a lot of these tie together.
Yeah.
You know, people think, hey, I'm going to sell my business for X and, I'm going to walk away and be fine. Well, okay. You sell your business for X, you don't get all the money up front. You sell it for X and Uncle Sam takes a big chunk of it. You sell it for X with these terms that things are going to happen well, and all of a sudden you lose key employees or you lose key customers, and whoever you sold it to, there's contingencies that, you're going to get things that are going to be taken off the table. Sort of what Gary was alluding to, people really need to look at, hey, if I can sell my business, they need to have a range. Can I sell my business? This is the low range I can get for it after tax. This is the high range. How does this play into some of the other planning that I've been doing throughout time? How does this impact my family? Another huge one for business owners, and my business is this way too. If I sold my business tomorrow, there are cell phone bills that I pay through the company.
Mm-hmm.
There are all these things that I've used for the business. They are legitimate expenses.
We've talked about this.
But all of a sudden it's stuff that my family and I've become accustomed to having. I would have to turn around and pro forma
you
accounting.
might have a company car or a cell phone or subscriptions or whatever it is.
There are ad backs or there are things that, you have to account for. And that changes that number that you need to sell your business for. Definitely. So, there's just a lot more to it, more moving parts than people really think about or realize.
And I think the one thing that a lot of people don't think about either, like me, for example, I could retire in probably 8 years, maybe 12, 13, 14 years. So I have this range. Well, since you're an investment guy, what exactly is the economy going to be doing in 12 years? Can you tell me that?
Well, according to Gary, we're going to inherit a couple other countries someplace else. So,
yes,
the economy, we'll have some other places for you to go. Cost of living will be cheaper down there.
Fine.
Oh, great.
Yeah.
So I'm good.
You're great. You're fine.
You can retire probably tomorrow, Travis. It's just, what do you want your standard of living to be?
Right.
Yeah.
I can tell you the mortgage interest rate for sure in 12 years, what it will be. Yes.
And
again, this is Gary, the PhD math guy.
No,
and
totally
also,
stay away from me for that.
I mean, when you're talking a chunk of a time like that, 8 years, a long time. What's going to happen to my industry, your industry, whatever the listener's business industry is?
Well,
it could totally be gone. It could be flourishing. You have no clue.
I have a friend in a business, and her partner decided that they were going to have a 6-year retirement plan. And they started their succession planning, but in their succession planning, because the type of business they have, you have to have the right person in place to be able to take it over and retain a customer base, basically. So I brought this guy in that they thought would be great, and went 3 years into it. They're all getting excited about retirement, and it all went south. Now they're in a new 6-year retirement succession plan that doesn't have that built in anymore because it all went south before their plan could ever come to fruition. So
it's the old
each
Mike
business
Tyson.
is different, right?
It's the old Mike Tyson. Everyone's got a plan until you get punched in the face.
Right.
And then where do you go from there?
Yeah.
Well, that was 5 takeaways. I know we got to run to a break here real quick. So you're listening to Inside Business. Travis Filing, Gary Tharnish, talking with Clark Bellin, the owner of Bellwether Wealth. And we're going to have more right after this break.
Filing in Gary Tharnish.
We're back on Inside Business. Travis Filing, Gary Tharnish. We're talking with Clark Bellin, president of Bellwether Wealth. And let's talk about, like, for new business owners, if someone's starting out a new business today, now we don't want to give advice because everybody is unique, but what are some things to be able to access capital if it's an emergency? Are there products out there that people should be looking at when they're starting a business to go, okay, maybe I can get capital out of here, or have a liquidity, if I have a liquidity issue, I can get access to it?
Yeah, there are, again, let's make the assumption that the person that's starting their business has actually done something else for a while and they've accumulated some assets, whether it's in a 401k before, or maybe they did buy an insurance product from somebody someplace and they have some permanent insurance with some cash value. I mean, there are places to be able to get access to it. It's how do you get access to it, and are you penalized for it? One thing that comes to mind, and again, this would kind of be controversial to be honest, but if you're a business owner and you've, worked someplace before and you had an old 401k, you could start a 401k at your own new company. And what that would allow you to do, then there's a rule out there that says you can borrow out of your own 401k. It's 50% of the account balance up to $50,000. And then you set your own interest rate and you're paying yourself essentially kind of back, this money that you borrowed out. Now you do need to make payments on it, and it has to be paid back, I think, within a 5-year period of time. And I'm not advocating that people run out and do this, but you're talking about, okay, I've started this business, and like we said before, things didn't really go quite the plan as I wanted, and I need a little bit of cash to be able to do something. Hopefully that cash that you're accessing is going to be either needed to, live life or do something within the business, not go on a vacation or buy a sports car or something like that, So there are ways to do it. You just have to know the rules. You've got to know the products. You've got to know. And again, it kind of goes to sort of the theme we're talking about. You have to kind of plan ahead a little bit. And so working with, in my opinion, a qualified advisor will help be able to navigate some of those, rough waters that you may be going through, and kind of tell you, hey, this is where you might be able to access some capital.
See, and one thing I wish I did when we had to cash in is we looked at it. It was a lifeboat. Just get in the lifeboat. And if I had it all to do over again, I would have no choice but to do what I did. But I wish I would have sat down and said, okay, what's the plan to get this paid back? Now, I didn't borrow it from myself. I just cashed it in. But what's the plan to get back to where I was? I didn't do any of that.
And the other thing that's hard to do when you're in that situation, right, is to reach out for help. Because you feel a little bit like, wow, we just really screwed up here. We're out of money. This is a nightmare. It's kind of a tough time to reach out. You don't want to be judged.
Oh, it's embarrassing.
So you make a lot of those types of financial situations and decisions that collaboration could make that decision much better. Obviously, somebody that could step back. They're not in your immediate, oh my God, what am I going to do?
Yeah.
That gives you a plan and idea on something like that. I think that's really important as well. And we talk about that all the time, the need to ask for help and know that, that's where, if you have the relationship developed, right, with someone in your business, right. And I know you and I like, the way you operate, and then it's not all about making a commission off this product or that product. You have my best interest in mind. Then if you've established somebody like that, I would say, if you're thinking of starting a business, get a really good lawyer, a really good banker, a really good financial guy, and go to the doctor, on a regular basis, right? You're not going to live forever. Those things are important. And find the right ones.
And have you ever had conversation? Has anybody ever come to you and go, here's the situation?
Oh yeah. Yeah, they feel like when they come to the situation or bring the situation to us, that's the first time I've heard this.
Mm-hmm.
I've been doing this for almost 30 years now.
I've heard it. I've heard everything.
Seen it.
Wow, I've never seen this before.
Kind of seen that before. So I think, like as Gary was alluding, don't panic. I know when you're in the thick of it, that's easy to say and hard to do. But get your team, as Gary was just alluding to, get your team together. And they can help you navigate some of those things.
Yeah.
But,
and we talk about these things all the time. I always share my downfalls. Like when I cashed it all in, I was buying groceries at Menards at 28% off of a credit card. At least it was delicious, good, high quality food.
Yes. Yes.
But it's like, I made the mistake because I had to have this bulletproof facade
Sure.
that I've got it all together, and that I fired the dice and jumped into this business. And that was a huge mistake on my part.
It is a little bit of a segue, but it's again a thing we talk about with my kids all the time is like relationships is what make the world go round. And that's kind of what you're talking about, Gary.
Right.
And work with those relationships and people will help you. I think when we were younger, we had this attitude that we had to do it all ourselves.
Right.
And when you did it all yourself, sometimes you operated in a vacuum and you made mistakes that you didn't necessarily know you were making and could go back. But when you work with the relationships and people you trust and bounce things idea, magic happens. And that I think is really a big important thing that I hope people gather is that you don't have to do all this stuff by yourself. You can work with other people and they'll help you make right decisions about stuff.
Yeah. And strategies, there's always, coming up with different strategies, plan A, plan B. I always think like I try to do my real estate like I play chess. If we do this move or we strategize this or we have to negotiate something, if I do this, what are the 3 possible reactions and where do we go from there? And I think that is important to do, obviously, with financial types of things. And I have found 401ks to save deals sometimes, which are great. So we, one thing we do is that we say that we engineer equity, and we really do. We can take your house if you can move out of it, and we can do certain things to it that you might think would cost a fortune, and you might think, why are you doing that? That's stupid. But we know when a buyer walks into a house what they're looking for. But you have to get out of that. So for 2 people who have 2 mortgages is even tough, especially even if they're 45 and have a lot of equity. We had a situation where 401k worked perfectly in this situation because you just had to prove that you could afford the payments for 24 months. If you took a certain amount out, you're going to maybe pay 1 or 2, 3 payments. We can have your house sold within 3 months easy and fix it up. And it was a great scenario. I think they were going to be like maybe $400 expense a month for 3 months, and it could have worked out great. They went and talked to their financial person who said, no, you don't want to touch your 401k. And I don't know what that whole situation was, but instead talked them into a bridge loan. And I kept I wonder if that's going to be a good idea. I don't know, we'll see. And I don't know a lot about it, so I stay out of it. 2 + 2 is 5 in my world. So I'm like, okay, I'm listening to all the other people, but I'm kind of listening to both sides. And I'm like, okay. So I kept going, well, just know what your interest payment is, right? And well, yeah, no, I trust him. It's going to know what you're interested in. We're at the closing table. And the guy flies over that document to sign for the interest payment for the next 1, 2, or 3 months, depending on how fast I can sell the house. And he's losing it. He's like, wait, what? This is just interest? It's what? Listen, you need to sell our house fast. I'm like, whatever.
Do what I can.
Yeah. So 2 weeks later, it's like that 401k thing would have made so much more difference. But anyway, I don't think people often think about 401k as a tool they can use in life situations.
I always compare wealth management in that situation. I think of everything not so much in chess, but like the Rubik's Cube. Everybody's good at getting one side looking exactly like they want, but they mess the other 5 sides up.
Oh,
cool. And if you step back, and our job is to make sure all 6 sides look appropriate all the time.
That. Yeah.
And so when you're facing a situation like your client was, you need to look at that whole Rubik's Cube and say, okay, well, if I move this side here, how does that impact over here? And where do I take this? And then later on, after the transaction took place, how do we go back and readjust the Rubik's Cube to get back?
Yeah, I love that.
I love that analogy. Because those parts always are moving and changing. And then, and again, those sides are interdependent upon each other.
Yeah.
So
and I kind of, stay out of that end of it because it's not my forte at all. But I remember that's something that'll always stick with me because just seeing the face and what happened at the closing table, I'm like, you've got to be kidding.
Yeah.
So it was trust put in the wrong place in my mind. But
well, we got another break coming up here. So let's run to that real quick. When we come back, this needs an adjustment. Have an idea. I have a question for you on this needs an adjustment. You're listening to Inside Business, Travis File and Gary Tharnish, and talking with Clark Bellin, of president of Bellwether Wealth. And we'll have more right after this.
Filing and Gary Tharnish.
We're back on Inside Business. Travis Filing, Gary Tharnish talking with Clark Bellin, president of Bellwether Wealth. And it's time for This Needs an Adjustment. I finally did it, Gary. I've been meaning to go out. One of our sponsors is Ascend Chiropractic.
Yep.
And I've always been I'm never going to get an adjustment until I hurt. And then, of course, then I get hurt. And then I am aggravated because I'm like, I should have been going to the chiropractor twice a month at least. And so hurt my back. And then all of a sudden it quit hurting right before the appointment. I'm like, I get canceled. Nope. No. I got to learn a lesson sooner or later, but went out, saw them. They are fantastic.
Yeah.
I've never had that thorough of a chiropractic care exam. And it was just so thorough.
Yeah. And it doesn't end with, you need to come for 3 times a week for 3 months. And
Yeah. Although it probably wouldn't hurt me.
Yeah.
But great group of guys. Anyway, it's time for This Needs an Adjustment. And I actually have a question for you on This Needs an Adjustment, because I know we've hit this a couple of times, but for a lot of business owners, obviously we get late started in investing. What is the difference? Like someone who's 20 or 25 versus somebody who is 40 or 45, how does it change strategy when you start getting older, when time is not on your side?
Yeah, the strategy can change a little bit. Again, it can be the vehicles that you're using. And when I mean vehicles, I mean, again, if you own a business, there's 401ks and profit sharing plans, and there's ways to devise those or design those plans so you can actually load them up a little bit more as the business owner than you could if you were just an employee. So there's some strategies there that can be done. But really, I think maybe what you're alluding to, Travis, is, how much risk do you need to take with the portfolio? And somebody that's younger can take more risk, but they've got more time. They might not need to take as much risk because they've got the time on their side to have that, slow and steady compounding win the race. Somebody that's a little bit older, they may have to push that comfort zone just a little bit. They may have to, be susceptible to a little bit more volatility to kind of hit those high notes to kind of drive that portfolio return just a little bit more. There also need to be more of the mindset of this does need to get monitored. It can't really be the Ron Popeil set it and forget it type of mentality that you can kind of afford to have when you're younger. Yeah. You do need to kind of monitor what's taking place and watch the world a little bit. And how does that impact my portfolio and some of the strategies that I'm trying to take advantage of? So, somebody that's a little bit later to the game, they're going to have to probably push the envelope a little more than they might be comfortable with, depending on what their objectives are. They need to look at the vehicles that they're using and make good strategic decisions on how they can maximize those vehicles. And again, when I say vehicles, I'm talking about the types of accounts, they need to watch those products that have high fees in them. They can sound great. I can pitch some of those products and make them sound wonderful. But there's always the good and the bad. There's pros and cons and everything. And you need to watch what some of those cons are, because some of those cons will eat away at some of your returns. So it's a valid question, and it's one that people, face more than we probably want them to. And you just need to kind of, again, get your team together, talk through kind of what you're trying to accomplish, and get buy-in from or ideas from your various team members and come up with a strategy.
And you'd probably have to think investment percentage wise would probably go up. I mean, that would help, if you're in a position where, you might have to set aside more than you're comfortable doing.
Yeah. We have a client that actually happens to be in Illinois, but he plays a game with himself where he tries to set aside a certain amount of money every week, and he puts the money away, and it goes into a very, plain vanilla brokerage account, and we manage it then accordingly. But when I say plain vanilla, it means he could put it in on Monday and he could take it out on Thursday if he needed to. But he just says, hey, listen, this is my goal and this is the game that I'm trying to play. And he just continuously, and then what he does every year is he actually increases what he puts away on a weekly basis. So,
that makes me think of the all-in-one loan. It's kind of a new loan. CMG is the only company I know in the United States that offers it so far, but it's how they do home loans over in Europe. It gets complicated, so I'm not going to get into it now on the radio, but basically you can pay a house off in 7 years pretty easily if you do this, but it requires some self-control to a degree, but they're investing all your extras every day, and you can take it out if you need to buy a heater. You can take the money out. You can do all this different stuff, but it's paying off. It's just a really cool way to do it that people don't think about. But when I think of what you do, God, there's so many strategies that you could do. It's going to vary for everybody, obviously.
Right.
But it's just immense amount of things.
The one thing I did when this was probably about, I don't know, 5 years after I left to work in the business full time, we did the whole Dave Ramsey thing where you get cash and you put it in different envelopes, which is it's a pain in the butt, but at the same time, you spend cash. I don't know about you guys. Personally, I spend cash differently than the credit card. Because the credit card, there's no pain.
Right.
But there's a ton of pain. You're just not feeling it, seeing it, whatever. Because I still have the $27 that's in my pocket. I'll just put it on the credit card. Why am I doing that? You really truly spend cash differently than credit card. And if you can get into that habit, that I think helps people set money aside better because it's there, it's tangible, it's in front of you.
No, I agree. I mean, my wife and I, we use cash. That's how we operate. We use cash for almost everything: groceries, entertainment, going out to eat. And again, it's just because of that sort of habit to help control what we're spending on. Because to your point, you can go have a great evening and put it all on a credit card and not even really realize what that cost you until you get your statement next month.
True.
Yeah.
And by the time the statement comes, you forgot about the evening.
Yeah.
Unless you had a big fight or something, then you might remember the evening. But
you're still
yeah. So,
but the thing that pushed me to the Ramsey plan was I had bought a pizza and put it on a credit card, and then I'm driving home, and something in my brain clicked, and I went, I just put a pizza on a 30-year note.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Right.
Yeah,
and it's I had never made that correlation in my life. I'm like, that was pretty stupid. Now I've still done it on occasion, but but still, it is something that I don't think a lot of people, and it seems like cash is going away.
Oh yeah. No, when when we go to certain stores here in town, and particularly I can think of groceries, and you give them the cash. It's like the music quits playing over the PA system, and all the crowd stops, and they all look at you like I just caused this major disruption in the whole entire day, looking for them. And then how do I make change back on this?
I was trying to think where it was. I wanted to pay cash and actually couldn't. I don't know what that was. Anyway, I was like, are you kidding me? Like, why would you not want cash as a business owner?
That was going to be my next question. I wonder if there are businesses that don't accept cash.
Well, doesn't all of the University of Nebraska doesn't do cash anymore at any of the events?
Really?
I think when you
that's events, right. When you go to a football game, any of the sports, you cannot take.
Wow.
They don't take cash for anything.
Well, now that I think of it, that's when I go to the Browns games, they have like this scan thing where you put your items down on this little scan pad, and then it scans your face, and your credit card's already attached to it. And
oh my God,
here's a neat little trick that my son figured out was he can attach his face to my credit card, and then he would quote unquote buy us beers. Hey, I bought us beers, Dad. And then I look at my credit card and I'm like,
no, you didn't.
No, I bought us beers.
That's funny.
Well, that was This Needs an Adjustment. We've got another break coming up. You're listening to Inside Business. Travis Filing, Gary Thornish. We're talking with Clark Bellin, CEO, president of Bellwether Wealth. And we'll have more right after this.
Filing and Gary Thornish.
Last segment of Inside Business, Travis Filing, Gary Thornish, talking with Clark Bellin, president of Bellwether Wealth. How do people find you? How do they get a hold of you?
Well, they can do it the old-fashioned way and use the phone. Call us at 402-476-8844. We do also have a web presence. They can go to bellww.com. So Bell, like a thing you rang, BELLWW.com. And you can click a button on there, which will send us an email to reach out and start a conversation. So those are
old school.
Those are the two ways that are best to get a hold of us.
Nice.
Yeah.
Simple.
Excuse me, you're in Lincoln, you're in Omaha. Don't have offices in Omaha.
We don't have
anymore.
we don't have offices in Omaha, but as we were talking off air here a little bit, the way the world works and technology. I mean, my gosh, my laptop and my Wi-Fi, I can be anywhere and conduct business and just as if I'm sitting in my Lincoln office.
Yeah.
So
I've been sitting on a beach and had a conversation with clients, and it's just, and it's smarter business because we were talking, you had offices in Omaha. I used to, and I'm like, you drive by it and it's like, I don't even know what's in there anymore. Why am I paying rent?
Yeah. But see, I'm an office guy. I like to go to the office. I'm much more efficient there. It's because I have ADWHT, whatever all that crap is. But I'm much more focused there. There's no drums. There's no keyboard. There's no like all the other stuff I can do. I like going to the office. I also like being able to get up and walk to a realtor 3 offices down that's been doing it for 45 years and go, hey, here's this situation. How would you deal with it?
Yeah.
I love having offices, but multiple offices made no sense for me.
Yeah, exactly. To get to Omaha, I was at 120th and Blondo the other day. It takes 45 minutes to get from Omaha back to Lincoln.
Yeah.
If you lived in Chicago, it would take you longer. I sometimes think people think about the distance between Lincoln and Omaha like they're going to the other side of the moon.
Yeah.
They're not. It's a very, very fast commute between the two communities. The two communities are working more and more together all the time. You're going to be up there later on today, I think.
Showing houses.
So
it's nothing.
I mean, it's very fast to get up
back and forth. And I work in my car. It's like, hey, SIRI, call whoever and have the conversations, which are a lot of our, I'm sure it's a lot of your business too, developing relationships, all of ours.
I do laugh because when I tell people I'm in Panama, they go, oh my God, how far of a drive is that? And I think back 10 years ago, we had a client, they were right across the street from the Chicago Board of Trade. And it was about 3:00 on a Friday or something. And we get done with our meeting and I go, hey, we're in the parking garage right across the street. Like they went white and they go, you park down here? I go, yeah. And you want to leave now? Yeah. Is that, I think it took us 3.5 hours just to get out of town. I mean,
a while. Yeah. It's a
while. We are pretty dang lucky down here. Well, before we get you out of here, do you have any advice for people who are thinking about starting a business today or thinking about breaking out on their own?
I think when people want to start a business, it's kind of like there's two paths or two groups of people that seem to want to start a business. There are those that are kind of really strategizing and thinking, and those people tend to be maybe a little bit slower to pull the trigger and tend to, my estimation, be more successful going at it because they've thought about the contingencies and the pros and cons and have done some planning. There are other people out there that just are either fed up or they see somebody else that has done it and they think, well, they made it. I'm going to make it. I'm going to have this instant success. And they don't realize a lot of the pain and suffering and challenges that people have gone to get there. I would encourage everybody to, again, work with a team, talk through the contingencies, look at all of the different ways things can go right. Think about some of the things that could go wrong and plan ahead accordingly. And take your time, kind of establishing things to really go out on your own. One of the things that I have people come to me all the time is like, I have an idea for a business and people that have money. And so here's my idea for the business. And why don't you get your people that to invest? And my question to them is, well, how much are you going to put in? And they're like, well, none. I don't have any money.
I don't want to
have the idea.
And I'm like, oh, and how are you going to live? Well, I'll use the money that they're giving me to live. And I'm like, oh, so you want the people that I know that have all this money to come in and basically subsidize your lifestyle and take all the risk.
Right.
But I have the idea. It doesn't
It doesn't work that way. Unfortunately, I'd be a billionaire by now.
So, it's do some planning, do some thinking, strategize, and look at the different ways the contingencies can play out. That would be my takeaway of things to think about.
Well, the gal that teaches entrepreneurship out at SCC was saying that, it's interesting how these people will come in and have this great idea and she'll sometimes be like, do people need that?
Right.
Like, let's just start there.
Right,
Like,
right,
do
yeah.
people really need that? You know, I'm like,
What's
oh,
the market
okay.
asking for? Right.
Yeah. Yeah.
I had somebody come to me. This was years ago. Had an idea for a business, wanted me to invest in it, and it was an interesting idea. And I'm like, okay, well, I had a building that could house this, and we start kind of laying it out, and it was very similar. He had no money to invest, but he was going to do all the work and everything. Okay, that's fine. So I'm going to own 70% of this business. And whoa, hold on. What do you mean? I'm doing all the work here. Well, where do you think my money came from?
Right.
I mean, mine didn't
Your
just
money
fall
tree.
out of the
Yeah,
sky.
right. Yeah.
I had to do all the work for
Yeah.
all my money. And you're going to do the work and you're going to get 30% of it.
Yeah.
Well, obviously he didn't go for that. So
Like the show Shark Tank, where they come in and they need money. Then sometimes they get an offer and it's like, well, that's not a very good offer. And it's like, you don't have any money.
Right. Yeah.
And
Right.
you're
Yeah.
wanting them to take the risk.
Uh-huh.
And they are very good at it. And they're going, this is what it is, but you know better.
I always watch that and I go, if any of those people made me an offer, they go, okay, you know what? I'm going to give you 10 cents and I'm going to take half of your business. Deal. Right. Because the connections alone.
Yeah. What you're going to learn.
Right.
Yes.
Right.
It's got to be worth whatever your business is worth. It's worth it.
Yeah.
That always has stunned me when people just walk away and it's like, we'll never hear from them again because it's never, the story is never, and today that business is
Right.
Right.
Yeah.
You can buy their products everywhere,
Yeah.
like nowhere.
Yes, exactly.
Oh, that's funny.
Oh my gosh. I'm just kind of going through our list. We got about a minute and a half to go here. So have you ever seen like what mistakes, have you seen mistakes that take people years to recover from?
Oh yeah, you've seen people make mistakes, and again, though, I think it really comes back to: do they look at that mistake as a learning lesson and kind of grow from it, or do they always default back to that mistake and kind of play the "woe is me"? If this hadn't happened to me, I would be so much further along. The people that have made the mistake and say, well, that didn't go quite how I thought it was going to go, and here's a lesson, and I won't do that again. And then they just kind of chalk it up and pivot and go a different direction. They seem to do okay.
Yeah.
The ones that make the mistake blame it, and then sometimes they make a mistake and then they try to find a fast solution to make up for their problem, and then that just comes quicksand and they just continue to make mistakes. That becomes very problematic.
My dad's saying, other than the one measure twice, cut once, that sticks with me always, is it's not the mistakes you make in life, but it's what you do about them that count. And your mindset has to be so right with all of that. I mean, if you have that mindset that woe is me,
it's not going to serve you. It's not going to serve you. My dad always said, I never tell people my problems because 80% of the people don't care and the other 20% are glad you're having problems. So what's the point?
You need to write a book with everything your dad said. For real.
That's good.
Yeah.
Well, thanks for coming in.
I
And chatting
appreciate
with
you
us.
guys having me on. It's been fun.
Yeah.
Good.
So we've been talking with Clark Bellin, Bellwether Wealth. If you need some help, reach out to him, bellwetherww.com.
No,
BellWW.com.
See, screwed it all up. Anyway.
All right.
Have a good one.
Thank you, guys.